It is that time of the day. It is time for Business Matters. We are here with Paul Graney. Paul, how's it going?
Fiona, great. Thank you so much.
What you got for us?
Let's see. Great to see everybody at home. Now, tech companies are flooding President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration fund. Microsoft and Google are now the latest to contribute $1 million each. So after a presidential candidate wins, an inaugural committee is appointed to organize and finance events. But unlike contributions to campaigns, there's no limit on donations to an inauguration committee. Meta also donated $1 million, and Amazon is reportedly looking to do the same. Oh, in fact, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman said he would make a personal $1 million donation to the fund. Axios reported that Apple CEO Tim Cook is going to do the same. And an offer has been made to buy TikTok's U.S. assets. A bid has been made by entrepreneur and former LA Dodgers owner Frank McCourt's Project Liberty and his partners in the People's Bid. The proposal comes ahead of a January 19th deadline for TikTok owner ByteDance to sell its platform or else face a ban here in America. President Joe Biden signed the law into April last year. The consortium did not disclose the value of the proposal, but in a statement, McCourt said he looks forward to working with ByteDance and incoming President Trump to get the deal done. And hiring announcements from U.S. employers last year dropped to its lowest level in almost a decade. Outplacement firm Challenger Gray & Christmas found that companies announced about 770,000 hiring plans in 2024. That's down from the year before and the lowest since 2015. Sluggish hiring accounted for a slowdown of job gains last year. 2024 also saw the highest number of planned job cuts since the pandemic. The firm said the data reflects ongoing uncertainty in economic conditions. And turning to some critical labor news, the U.S. has averted a second wave of port strikes that could have snarled supply chains again and taken a toll on the economy. Here's more.
A new U.S. port strike has been averted. The union, representing 45,000 dock workers on the East and Gulf Coasts, said it had reached a tentative deal with employers. That would cover a new 6-year contract. The International Longshoremen's Association and the U.S. Maritime Alliance Employers Group called it a win-win. Terms of the deal were not disclosed, but it's said to cover an agreement on the use of automation, which had been the thorniest issue involved. The ILA said the deal would protect existing jobs and implement technology in a way that would create new ones. A deadline for the talks had been extended to January 15th to hammer out an agreement on automation. There had been fear that a new strike could spark chaos and economic harm just days before Donald Trump is sworn in. Back in October, a 3-day stoppage triggered a surge in shipping prices and caused backlogs at 36 affected ports. Longshoremen returned to work after employers agreed to a 62% pay hike over 6 years. Employers at the ports stretching from Maine to Texas include the U.S. arms of Denmark's Maersk and China's COSCO. The ILA has agreed to keep working under the current contract until the new deal is ratified by members and the relevant firms.
And President-elect Trump is being praised for his role in averting the strike. In a post on Facebook, the head of the Dock Workers Union, Harold Daggett, called Trump a hero and said he gets full credit for the tentative agreement. One of the negotiation sticking points was automation of ports. After meeting with Daggett, President-elect Trump sided with dock workers last month in a post on Truth Social. He said the amount of money saved with automation is nowhere near the distress, hurt, and harm to American workers. Daggett said the statement was heard around the world. And the cost of California's wildfires could be staggering. Forecaster AccuWeather says the initial estimated damage and economic loss from the disaster exceeds $50 billion. The fire is already one of the worst in California history. Now, AccuWeather says if the fire spreads to densely populated neighborhoods, the current loss estimates could climb even higher. AccuWeather's estimates for total damage and economic loss from the 2023 Maui wildfires was between $13 and $16 billion. Multiple TV series there are pausing production amid the raging Los Angeles wildfires. The latest shows to be affected are Sony Pictures Television's SWAT and Spider Noir. Other shows halted production yesterday as well, though. Universal Studios series Hacks won 2 Golden Globe Awards earlier this week, but has also temporarily stopped production. Universal Studios Hollywood theme park closed yesterday for the first time since the COVID pandemic. It remains closed today. And Apple says it's never sold data collected by its Siri voice assistant. It also denies using data to create marketing profiles. The Wednesday statement comes days after the tech giant settled a class action lawsuit over Siri. Here's a look.
Plaintiffs said Apple had routinely recorded their private conversations and disclosed them to third parties, including advertisers. They said the recordings happened after they inadvertently activated the voice assistant after saying something similar to its "Hey Siri" alert phrase.
Hey Siri, what's my update?
Apple paid $95 million to settle the case. Many social media users took that as an admission of guilt, but the company has consistently denied the allegations. In its new statement, the iPhone maker said it had never sold Siri data to anyone for any purpose. It said it never retained audio recordings, unless users explicitly opted to allow that.
I respect your privacy and only listen when you're talking to me.
Even then, Apple says the recordings were only used to help improve Siri. A similar lawsuit on behalf of users of Google's voice assistant is pending in California. The plaintiffs there are represented by the same lawyers as in the Apple case.
And the U.S. government has expanded testing of the nation's milk supply to better track the spread of bird flu. The Department of Agriculture says 15 additional states have enrolled in the program. That brings the total to 28 states. It accounts for almost 65% of the nation's milk production. H5N1 bird flu has been spreading in dairy cattle since March. Infectious disease experts have called for expanded testing since the beginning of the outbreak. USDA testing has already detected bird flu in dairy herds in California and Texas. And access to the popular weight loss drug Zepbound has expanded. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services announced that Eli Lilly's obesity drug can now be covered by government-backed Medicare and Medicare insurance plans for sleep apnea. In December, Zepbound became the first drug approved in the U.S. for sleep apnea. Now, commercial insurers and employers were previously hesitant to cover the drug because it cost more than $1,000 a month. But even with the approval, insurers can still choose not to cover Zepbound. And some symbols remain in our minds as iconic representations. You could think of the New York Greek blue coffee cup with Greek-styled lettering. You might have seen it on shows like Seinfeld or movies like Ghostbusters or Men in Black. Hollywood often uses the Greek coffee cup to set the scene in New York City. So NTD's Sean Marshall decided to look into the history of the cup and how it's being preserved.
Quite possibly the world's most famous coffee cup, the Greek coffee cup many of us have seen in TV shows and movies again and again. It's come to be a symbol of New York City over the years. One artist took it upon himself to design a more permanent ceramic version, which is now sold at the Museum of Modern Art and Design gift shop. An exact replica with matching creases like a real paper cup.
And so I just thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could make it a little less ephemeral, solidify it as the icon that it is and deserves to be.
The artist, Graham Hill, originally set out to make a plant-based air filter, and at the same time designed the New York coffee cup replica.
It's been around since 1963. This guy, Leslie Buck, designed it, and rest in peace, died a few years ago. And just as it used to be all in all the Greek delis. All the corner stores used to be really more Greek owned, and so came up with the idea, let's make something that has a little bit of a Greek motif.
While his air filter invention didn't work out, his replica cup did. But it still had to be approved by Solo, the company that owned the rights to the original design.
And so I had to be really persistent and phone back then, like literally phone my way around the organization to figure it out. So that was the real coup. And then luckily we've done our best to be really great partners, build a really high quality product that treats everybody in the value chain properly and pay our bills on time, etc.
His replica has been featured on a number of blogs and has been a bestseller at the Museum of Modern Art for around 18 years.
And so I came up with the idea of making it as a ceramic version. And with that, people could bring it home. And could bring it, people love New York, and if they've lived there or visited there, it's just, there are not a lot of useful souvenirs out there. And so I came up with this cup, and people love it.
In 2007, the cup was briefly mentioned in a New York Times television review as one of those endangered artifacts. Solo discontinued the original cup as a stock item since Starbucks, other franchises, and other privately owned coffee houses started replacing diners as the takeout morning stop for coffee lovers. If you want to order the real deal cups, Solo has retired the design from production, but they've been given new life and are available at nycoffeecup.com. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
And a few years after filing for bankruptcy, Penney is hoping to make some JC dollars. That's why the 123-year-old department store chain is merging with Spark Group. The company owns several struggling clothing brands, including Aeropostale and Brooks Brothers. The partnership will create a new company called Catalyst Brands. Analysts say this combination of clothing stores will likely benefit from cross-marketing, cost reduction, and perhaps some talent sharing. The all-equity transaction to kick off Catalyst comes with $9 billion in revenue, 60,000 workers, and 1,800 stores, be led by Penney CEO Mark Ronson. And for a second year, China has taken this top spot for auto exports. But data from the China Passenger Car Research Association expects China to lose its title this year. CPCA data suggests China probably ranked as the world's largest auto exporter in 2024, with nearly 5 million units in exports, up 25%. This despite additional tariffs by the European Union on Chinese-made electric vehicles late last year. But the association thinks China's auto exports will slow notably in 2025. It expects a 10% cooling with a drop in shipments to Russia. On top of that, the group is forecasting EV exports to see zero growth. And now could be the best time to book a trip overseas. Flight tracking company Hopper has found that international airfare is falling this year compared to last year, and capacity is up. Hopper data shows that through mid-2025, flights from the U.S. to Asia are down and averaging about $1,100. Flights to Europe also down to around $750. And there are international flights that are up, like to Mexico and Central America. As for domestic flights, the company found they are more expensive. Airlines are more cautious about capacity growth here and are dealing with aircraft delivery delays from Boeing and Airbus. And NVIDIA's Jensen Huang says useful quantum computers are still 15 to 30 years away, a technology that may again revolutionize the world and bring considerable threats. Here's the story.
15 years for very useful quantum computers. That would probably be on the early side.
NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang says that practical quantum computers are still 15 to 30 years away. Quantum computers are a developing technology which many believe will revolutionize the world. They can process more information more quickly than normal computers, but commercially viable ones are believed to be far away.
It's anybody's guess, and it's so far out. Most of that research is experimental.
Tech expert Ed Wattal says that Jensen Huang probably knows things about quantum computers that most people don't, because he's the CEO of NVIDIA. So he imagines there's data behind Huang's 15 to 30 year estimate. The key difference between normal computers and quantum computers is that normal computers use bits and quantum computers use qubits. Bits can represent either a 0 or a 1. They can be stored as electrical charges using transistors on a microchip. Qubits can represent both 0 and 1 at the same time. Because of the principles of quantum mechanics, they can be represented by atoms trapped in electromagnetic fields as photons, particles of light, or superconducting circuits.
It's greener and cleaner because now you're achieving the same outcomes with lesser computation. It also is faster to transfer data.
Wattal says quantum computers have promise. But on the other hand, faster computing means faster hacking, potentially rendering modern cryptography obsolete.
And if you're starting out 2025 with a holiday spending hangover and some fresh credit card debt, it may be time to focus on improving your finances. Here are some tips and tricks to work out your wallet and get fiscally fit.
If your New Year's resolution is to get your finances in better shape, it's going to take a little sweat.
It's a little like working out physically in the gym. You're working out for your finances, so they are in better shape for the activities that you'll be prioritizing and targeting in the future.
Much like staring down the treadmill, overcoming financial hurdles may seem daunting, but Bankrate's Mark Hamrick says it's important to figure out where you are and create a roadmap to get to where you want to go.
Have a budget to know how much money we have to work with. If we need to reduce our expenditures and perhaps get rid of some things that we're paying for that we don't need, we need to do that.
The best way to get started, attacking your debt, typically in one of two ways.
Some people like to attack the highest cost debt. Let's say if we have an annual percentage rate of 25% and that's the highest, some people might prefer to attack that first to pay that down and off. Others might say, oh, well, I've got just a couple $100 on this credit card. Let's pay that off right away.
Next, pull back spending by cutting out expenditures you may deem unnecessary, like auto-pay subscription services and meal deliveries. And then focus on saving.
Have a separate account for your savings and then automate the deposits that are going in there with direct deposit. Have it come straight out of your paycheck.
And don't forget about retirement. Putting away a little now can leave you in great financial shape in the future.
That's all for today's business news. Fiona, back to you.
Paul, great segment as always. Now about that TikTok ban there, what do you think of that?
Well, it's interesting to see Trump, when he was in office originally, he was very against TikTok. Of course, he wanted to get rid of it. He didn't have to, he tried to and wasn't able to. Right. Now, this time around, we see that the Biden administration has signed this into law. They have to sell it. But
Trump's got that soft spot now.
Exactly. But it's hard to know. Maybe he wants somebody, he said he can negotiate a deal. I think he believes he can negotiate a deal for anything. Yeah, that's it. And what do young people think? The people who are using TikTok, how do they view this potential ban?
Well, you know, I've heard a lot of younger people on the internet, they kind of mock this whole ban. They don't really see the threat of TikTok. Of course, when you dig a little deeper, there is substantial evidence there that there could be some sort of security concern there with an app like TikTok. But, you know, for them, they see it as just harmless entertainment. They don't really understand the big deal around it. But no, they're also, you know, young people are flexible. If TikTok does get banned, they'll find another app to express themselves on.
Yeah, so they don't realize what the U.S. government says about it being spyware for the Chinese Communist Party. They aren't aware of this.
I think they're not too aware. Even if they were aware, maybe they're not taking it too seriously. And that's why you should make sure to watch NTD News to know about that big news out there, huh? All right, Paul, thank you for your segment today. I'll see you tomorrow.
Fiona, thank you.